A busy day down in Phoenix, Arizona, as the NFL annual meeting is underway. Ben Johnson talked a lot about what's to come for the 2026 Bears, but left tackle still a huge topic of discussion. We're going to be talking about it all here on CHGO Bears After Dark, starting right now. Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark. Back at it here. Only a couple more After Dark episodes until it is time for the NFL Draft. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me, as always, here on Monday nights is Shayne, Marsaw, and Phil Ottochian from the Tape Never Lies Network. Going to be a fun night of a lot of different things that Ben Johnson discussed, from the owners' meetings, the NFL annual meeting, whatever you want to call it, but they're busy down there in Phoenix, Arizona, all the big wigs, all the big dogs down there rubbing elbows and wearing Tommy Bahamas shirts while we're up here. But it's starting to get warm around here. And another thing, too, I want to say before we get into this is no ads today. No ads today. We are going to go seamlessly through however long it takes to get through this conversation, but you get an ad-free CHGO Bears show, and the only thing you got to do to get through that is for me to remind you that, hey, draft party going to be at Joe's on Weed Street, April 23rd and 24th. Go to allchgo.com/events to get your tickets to our draft party. We're excited for everybody to come out. That's it. That's the only ad you get the whole night. We're going to be having some fun. We got a bunch of clips from Ben Johnson to hear from. So we're going to run through all those. How you guys doing today here, fellas?
We're good. Doing good now that we can talk. Didn't get put to the background, and we're out front and ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every show before we get started, these two do everything they can to throw me off my game, but it's not going to happen. I am locked in. I'm dialed in. I'm excited to get into some of this conversation. Phil, are you ready to talk some football? I know you've been, Tommy basketball here lately. Are you ready to talk some football? I know basketball is your true passion.
Well, it's nice to see the Hawkeyes and the Connecticut Huskies finally get their due, even though UConn continues to win.
Yeah. It's Lance Briggs' college basketball world, and we're just living in it, Greg.
Yeah, no doubt. Arizona moves on. Purdue is out. UConn is in. Iowa's out. But it's a football show here tonight. So let's get into it because, I really have been hovering around this left tackle conversation and really feel like there's a real possibility. We've talked about it multiple times on these shows of the idea that maybe the Bears just push all their chips in on offense at left tackle at 25. I know everybody's keyed in at defensive line and safety and some different spots, to draft there to help your defense, but you just never know. So let's just get right into it without further ado. And here is Ben Johnson from Phoenix, Arizona, just kind of setting the table on what the left tackle situation is and what to expect here this summer.
And how do you view that position in the big picture, left tackle? Do you see it as you guys need somebody until Ozzy's back, or do you need to look for more of a longer-term solution and just see how things play out with the uncertainty with Ozzy?
Yeah, I think that's something that Ryan and I always talk about. There's a lot of ways that could unfold. Obviously, you would love to have your long-term starter for the next 10 years locked up. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, though. We don't know. Ozzy's coming off a pretty serious injury. Not sure if we'll have him next year or at what point he'll come back. And so we're going to have an opportunity right now for a lot of competition. I feel good about Braxton being in that fold, Theo being in that fold. We signed Jedrick Wills, who I think's got a lot of talent himself, and he's hungry to prove that he's capable of being where he was drafted. And so we're going to see what we can end up doing there. And shoot, you can't rule out the draft either. And so I think we put ourselves in a really good situation to where, much like last year, we can go into this draft and stay true to our board and not force any pick. And so if there's a tackle or a defensive tackle or a DA, I think we can go any direction we need to and stay true to that and feel pretty good about it. But to give you clarity, it's hard to say right now what that left tackle spot's going to look like this year or 5 years from now.
It's pretty layered discussion. The tough injury that Ozzy Trapilo sustained in the playoffs has kind of thrown a serious wrench in not just this offseason's plan, but as Ben just said there at the end, what this is going to look like over the next 5 years. Hard to say. It's really hard to say how this is all going to shake out.
Yeah, it's important, man. That's the thing. And I know people get upset. It's, last year when the Bears drafted tight end, I don't want to say nobody had him going there. They still had the same issues along the trenches on the offensive line, specifically at left tackle, and the defensive line again. And here we are again. And what it comes down to, is Ozzy's journey over? Of course it's not. But did he show you enough to, like what Ben said, that we don't know what's going on with his knee, how bad it is, how he's progressing. We don't know any of that. That's the benefit that they have because they have all the medicals. You can never stop at that position group. You can't say, okay, we're set there, we're good to go. All of the best teams, I bring up this team a ton, but Philadelphia is always churning it over. Always, this guy's a rugby player. Well, he fits the size profile of what we want and what we like, and we feel that we can develop him. Now, you have Theo Benedict. Do they believe in Theo? They didn't believe in him for the playoff game, right? But now they do. Do they believe in Braxton Jones? His financial commitment that they gave him says that he's a swing tackle. And I know that he's all yoked up, according to Ben, and you'll probably end up, showing that at 310 pounds. That's great. He never looked out of shape to me at any point in the NFL. He's not strong enough. He's got thin pins, as they say. His legs are very small, and it's an anchor issue. And if there is somebody that you deem worthy of holding down the left tackle position for the next 10 years, it's simple. You draft him, and you're helping protect your most important asset by far on your team.
It's been a negligent position when it comes to the GM of the Chicago Bears, whether it be Pace or Poles. They do what they do with the defensive end. They draft later round guys. They don't make it a priority. In this draft, I think in the first episode here talking with you, we identified, don't be shocked, it's not going to be everyone's favorite, but the Bears take a left tackle. I've had Caden Proctor as the number one left tackle in this draft for a long time. It is what it is. We broke it down. Now all of a sudden, as predicted, two of the guys are going in the first round. One identified as a sleeper on this show. Don't be surprised when he goes in the first, and that's Max Ahenekor from Arizona State. We broke down both these guys. I believe Max could play left tackle. Do the Bears do that? I believe he's worth 25, both of those players. And the kid from Georgia, Freeland, those guys, I have first round grades on them. The kid from Miami, I think, offers up a lot. I think he could be. The position's value is what it is. It's obvious position of need. We thought We were hoping we were getting Calvin Banks last year. That's how we saw the draft. You got your 2 dancing bears, but to Shayne's point and to head coach, I appreciate his honesty. The Bears beat reporters always drop the ball because there's one story that just needs to be addressed, and it's your 3rd round pick out of Yale. Now, everyone could say he's just going to guard. I don't see him being able to play guard, so I'd like to hear from the coach. Where is Amagashi? Somebody that Rochard praised, saying he is the one guy on the roster that has the ability to play left tackle. Is he not locked in? Is he not care? Is he working? Like, Braxton is exactly what Shayne said. We could talk about him being yoked up and losing weight. I think it all begins with the ability to anchor and be strong at the point of attack. That has been it. But I'll never rule out Braxton or any player for that matter if they do the work in the offseason. And we just haven't seen it with Braxton Jones. And Theo Benedict, undrafted free agent. Ozzy Trapilo was a right tackle only, went over, played left tackle. A lot of people got hyped on it. But when you look at the tape, it was very inconsistent, but way better than I thought he'd be out there.
If you could put Ozzy and Theo together as one player, you'd feel a lot better about the position.
100%. But it is a huge hole in this roster with the head coach saying, listen, we're going to throw a lot of bodies at it. Don't be surprised if we take one in the draft. Could they then turn around and take, based on what they do in the draft, can they go back to Decker and keep that relationship warm? And then all of a sudden you're picking in the 1st round, and then here comes Adam Schefter with breaking news after the Bears have signed Taylor Decker to a 2-year deal, and that might happen and transpire. I don't think it'll happen before the draft because I don't think they want to show their hand, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely can see that, okay, we need what they did essentially in the playoffs is get a veteran out there at left tackle to handle Verse. And boy, did Tooney step up to the challenge. I know Peter Bukowski's singing Dr. Pepper, baby, but the reality is we just completely destroyed what their hearts were beating. We just ripped it out of them in every way possible. So,
well, I'll say this much, I've said before, we said it a couple weeks ago, and I know you want that answer in Amagaji, and it's a fair question to ask. But as I've said before, I think his answers, like he named all the different people that they've kind of thrown in the ring for this summer, and his name did not get brought up. And so, like, I think, yes, you want to force the issue and get Ben to, address it directly. But at the same time, I do think
here's where I push back. Larry Mayer does an article with Lunch with Larry. He mentions Amagaji as a left tackle possibility. There's mixed messaging going on. Here's a guy, they invested a 3rd round pick. And again, this is Ryan Pohl's way. Me and Shayne have addressed it many times. You got to watch. He continues to take these guys that have been injured, Greg. Turner has a rod in his leg. Oh, by the way, Turner gets hurt. Amagaji didn't play 3 games. Oh, now we're going to try. Now you're going to take what? Caleb Banks next with his 3 games? Oh, look at his upside. This isn't how you win. Okay? You stay away from the injured guy. Yeah. You didn't. So now let's get this answered, Adam Hoke or Johns, whoever's there. What's the story with Amagaji? Is he in this competition? I broke down Wills. There's a lot to like, and Big Steve Edwards, former Bear, was there breaking them down. But there's a lot of things. Same with what
A lot
we're
of
doing.
uncertainty.
Projections.
It's uncertainty. for
How's he
sure.
coming back from the injury? It'll be the same story with Ozzy Trapilo.
Well, and the biggest thing too is like, they've got to try to come up with an idea or some sort of a solution, and it's scary to hear that you brought Ben Johnson in. You have this dynamic offense that's ready to just like blow through the roof. We've got other clips to talk about, the receivers and some of the vision he has for how this offense can take the next step. But this glaring hole of, we don't know what the left tackle look like this year or over the next 5 years. That's a crazy answer, and I appreciate his transparency. And you go look
100%.
at Detroit up north. They're talking about, Dan Campbell today at the meetings was talking about moving Penei Sewell to left tackle. We brought up earlier in the offseason, do they have to consider, moving your right tackle to left tackle? Now, that's not on the table here, right? For Darnell Wright. But, this is what it turns into is, trying to come up with these solutions. So here's Ben Johnson one more time talking about staying true to the board, because this to me is one of the most interesting aspects. Phil, you brought up the 3 different left tackle prospects that you have a first round grade on. And that's certainly interesting. You mentioned the Arizona State left tackle, Alabama with Caden Proctor. Well, Ryan Poles was at both their pro days, right? He was in their facilities within the last few days. But once again, here's Ben Johnson doubling down about staying true to the draft board.
Yeah, once again, like with the draft, I don't feel any pressure to add any particular spot personally. I think Ryan feels the same. I know you guys will talk to him about that as well, but I think we put ourselves in a really good spot here to where we can stay true to the board. We got to do a great job with our evaluations to make sure we all see it the same. But we certainly want to improve the pass rush. We certainly want to get tighter in coverage on the back end. Offensively, we want to run the ball better, pass pro better. Like all those things need to improve and can improve, and that's what's so exciting about this time of year.
And they showed it last year, right? They had a bunch of needs, and they go into the draft, and you draft a tight end at 10, and you draft a wide receiver to a loaded room in the second round, and those guys are emerging as 2 of your top stars on the team. So while we talked about, we get it. We need a pass rush. We've been talking about it for 2 years here on this show since we all started doing it here together, and ad nauseum. But don't discount that they just triple, quadruple down here on the offense and say, screw it. Like, we're going to make sure this offense is buttoned down tight, and an opportunity to take this offense to the next level over the next few years.
Are you talking specifically offensive? You're not talking wide receiver though, right?
No.
Yeah, thank God.
Okay.
I was gonna hit end broadcast.
No, but then the other aspect, if we wanted it while we're talking draft, Shayne, I can give you the runway if you want it.
Yeah.
As much as we talked about left tackle being like maybe a luxury pick, if that's what you want to call it. I certainly wouldn't call it that with the situation we're in. There's another position that I think many fans aren't talking about that I think you're starting to circle a little bit on your radar.
Yeah, you and I had a chat the other day, and talking about it. And listen, I'm a trenches guy, and I'm dug in deep. But the one position that Ryan Poles has shown that he can unlock, in the draft and in UDFA, is at corner. And would I be stunned if you got to number 25 and Ryan Poles and Jeff King turned in the card for a cornerback? I wouldn't love it, but I also wouldn't be shocked, because part of this. So listen, when Ben says stay to BPA, that's easy when you're drafting in the top 10 year after year. When you're at 25, unless there's a guy that nobody was planning, and you don't have any medical red flags or off the field red flags is staring you in the face, I get it. When you're at 25 in a draft that's not super deep with top end talent, the BPA usually they're putting the period at the end of that sentence, but they should put a comma, because it's, we're going to take the best player available, comma, at a position of need. That's usually how it ends up working. And when you look at cornerback, You look at Jalen Johnson with no guaranteed money, an injury risk, another year left on his contract. Tyreek Stevenson, 1 more year left on his contract. Kyler Gordon under contract, can't stay healthy. Then you're getting down into Zay Frazier, who knows, very talented, but had to sit out the year for whatever issues he had going on. Terrell Smith coming back, I believe a patella tendon injury to his knee. Josh Blackwell, who I think is serviceable at, can play nickel or I think he could actually play safety. I think Phil's talked about that a couple of times, but when you look at it, under a different lens, you realize when you're talking about, Ben was just talking about 5 years down the road, this secondary could look completely different next year. They could all be gone.
Yep.
Because if it's say what you want about Kyler Gordon, love the player. If you can't stay healthy, you do nobody any good. And would I be shocked if they turn in the card and Colton Hood is a Chicago Bear at 25? Would I love it? I wouldn't love it. Would I be shocked? Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, and we've heard if I try,
I would hate it. By the way,
yeah.
I would it's again Ryan Poles doing dumb.
Oh right,
things.
no, and that
you don't take a corner. I'm
agree.
Just letting you know.
I agree, but Phil, honestly, if
I'm not going to be surprised.
Right,
I understand, but I think I'm speaking for the YouTube fan comment. We're all with you.
Yeah,
it would be the dumbest thing in my opinion, but this is where we've been with this GM, especially with some of these rare Ruben.
But just let me give you some of these names real quick. Like I said, Josh Blackwell, Dallas Flowers, Zay Frazier, Kyler Gordon, Elijah Hicks is a safety, but we know how we feel about him. Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, Cam Lewis has some versatility. Dante Manning, Javarius Owens, Terrell Smith, Tyreek Stevenson.
They got Cam.
So the more names you bring up, the more it starts to sound like the left tackle spot where they're just trying to throw as many names at the wall to see what sticks. And one of the things during the media scrum at the owners meetings, as I like to call it, Ben Johnson, and he said this multiple times during the season, which felt like a half challenge. I'm not going to go full challenge on Jalen Johnson and Kyler because they had injuries. It's just a reality that they are arguably out of their control in certain aspects. But he has said several times, he's always separated, like his involvement in their coaching. And he went on to say it again today where he said, Johnson noted, this is from Courtney Cronin saying, Johnson noted how quote unquote challenging it was to form relationships with Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon last year, given how both missed significant time with injuries. And he says, and I quote Ben Johnson, we're starting over completely this spring in regards to their relationship. So he has a better chance to get to know these players. And so
I think that's completely what and I'm sorry to cut you off.
It's fine.
But I've always speculated on Jalen Johnson's ability to be a teammate and where he was with the previous team and where his voice was. Everything is a me thing. And this has been a complete upload of culture change. And to have him absent, I'm not saying Shayne, I'm more Greg laughed when I was joking about 1, 2, 3 Mexico. Like you didn't see him around this team as it was crawling, then jogging and running. He wasn't around. He just wasn't.
I get that was your contention, but I'll always push back on that just from the fact that you got to give that guy a ton of credit, even if it was a detriment to the team on the field, for how hard he fought to get back on the field to compete for this team to go to the playoffs. This is a guy that's already got the money in his pocket. So I get where you're coming from and how I respect you're going to, stand on that hill, but I think you need to come around a little bit to the idea that Jalen is more than a me guy. A me guy does not get back on the team when his health is. Well, I'm just saying when his health is on the line And for him to fight back to get on the field, I think that speaks a lot.
Isn't that's your job?
Well, dude, he was clearly hurt, and he could have
easily sat out
the rest of the year. I wanted
to be clear. Not saying he wasn't hurt. There is a culture and an expectation for players, especially someone like him who's getting paid a lot of money and is considered by some a household. He is an elite corner. I never saw it. I have never seen it. I will never back down from that because no one could show me tape on it. He's not a good tackler. He's a business maker, and he's very good at reading coverages. That's where he excels. He's not fast. He's not physical. So there's one thing. Does he fit? That's why I respect Ben Johnson, because he's telling you honestly, in football coaches' terms, I don't even know this guy. I don't know if he's good.
And I said a few times, I did feel like it was somewhat of a challenge to both of them. Like, all right, I understand you're hurt, but I got to get to know you as a coach. 100%. And the only way to do that is on the field.
We're speaking the same language here.
Yeah.
I'm not ever taking what he did to get back on the field. I believe anybody that's a teammate. And I'll say this, even a step further, it's not going to sit well with a lot of people, but if they were losing, does he make that effort? That's the area, Shayne, that you and I have seen with this football player. I've been around this game my whole life. I can see Caleb Williams gets all this crap, and he is the complete identifying North Star of a competitor and leader. That is what you want on your football team. How fans defend this other stuff and these social media smack talkers, Greg, I didn't swear. Pretty proud.
You did a good job.
Again, Jalen has every opportunity to come out here, ball out, do what you got to do. I want to push back and just say, let's see how he does this year. This is no excuse year.
It's a big year. It's a big year for him and Kyler. They both got paid. They're both supposed to be leaders on this team, but the only way to lead is on the field. Now, while we're on the defense, I was planning on going to this later, but let's just follow the current and not fight against it. And one of the biggest things that I heard from Ben today that I'm excited for, and this is a point that I'd been trying to make, but now we heard it through Ben's mouth, is how much more involved he's going to be on the defense because of how much energy he had to implement last summer, installing an offense, drafting personnel for it and going through the summer to make sure that was on point. So here's Ben Johnson talking about how much more he's able to get his input on the defensive side of the ball.
And you mentioned this transformation on defense, looking for train killers. How would you characterize maybe your involvement in that transformation and maybe some other areas highlighted for improvement?
Yeah, well, I think this was when you get in that head coaching world, which I have been now for just over a year. Last year, I didn't get to sit in with the defense as much, with personnel going on, with offense trying to teach the scheme going on, and now this offseason, I've been privy and been able to sit in with almost every meeting that they've had as a defensive staff, and so I think it's been eye-opening to me. I've been learning a ton of football from their viewpoint, and been able to have good conversations about where we can get better from my lens as well. And so that certainly happens when it comes to the personnel and how we can upgrade there. I feel pretty strongly in terms of the staff that we have in place and what that's going to look like, how we're going to coach that here this springtime and during training camp. But I think we have more clarity now on what we need, what we're looking for from a positional standpoint and criteria than where we were a year ago. And so that's what gives me a lot of confidence in how we're going to continue to elevate that side of the ball.
That's exciting stuff for me. And the biggest thing is you want a guy as detailed as Ben Johnson in that room and offering that perspective.
100%. That, I'm sorry, is what a head coach should look like. Again, he's just everything I could have hoped for Chicago and the Bears my whole life, waiting for a guy that understands this is my name on this team. This is my team. So every bit of it I'm going to be involved with. And that's what you want to see from this coach. He is complicit in it all. And I think that he represents everything every young coach or any aspiring coach should recognize. If he's having a coach's clinic, I want to be there. That's the type of maniacal energy that I saw in Jim Harbaugh. Why I felt like that was exactly my word, explained perfectly right there. I didn't even hear this quote today because nobody wrote it up. So for you to grab that, it's awesome, Greg, because that's the mic drop for me, that he is in tune with the coaches, the scheme, the philosophy, and the personnel that are going to go on the other side of the ball to help me get my side of the ball back. So it's a home run shot right there.
Not to change the subject, but if you love that quote, wait until Greg plays I'm assuming you have it, Greg, when he's talking about the wide receiver.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
We brought that up.
We're gonna get to that. I'm trying to keep it where it's a little bit on target with what we're doing. So, but we are definitely gonna get to that because he does not mix words when it comes to the wide receivers
nor should he.
And the coaching to the wide receivers. That was a straight shot across the bow to Antoine
100%.
Randall and the coaching staff.
And
but
DJ Moore
let's keep it on the tracks here to the defensive side, because there was a couple other things that I liked from this that I know you guys are going to love as well. And this was one of the things that a lot of opposing fan bases were like, well, the Bears are going to fall off next year because takeaways, you're not going to, that's not sustainable. Well, guess what? Your head coach knows that too. And he's no dummy. And so here's Adam Hogue talking to Ben Johnson about this, and Ben Johnson not mixing words about no illusions on we're just going to take the ball away at the rate they did last year.
And speaking of the defense, the takeaways you're able to generate last season, a majority of those are now gone. The guys that you lost, the guys that
Al Harris is still here.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I guess, like, as you guys were going through that process and letting some of those guys go, how much was that part of the discussion? But at the same time, what gives you the confidence that you're still going to be able to generate those takeaways, even though a lot of those players left?
Yeah, you do the study, the analytics, the statistics, and all that, and you find that takeaways really is not a sustainable metric. As much as you want to be 7 interceptions year in and year out, over the course of history, that's rare. And so I do think, Al, for whatever reason, I can't I think he's a phenomenal football coach, obviously, but he's just got a way of teaching these guys to be in a good spot and take the ball away. And so that's been his MO since he was coaching DBs in Dallas, and that carried on over here. And so that's why I do have confidence, is that he's still with us. I think those guys as an entire unit, I'm talking about Richard Smith at linebackers as well, they're very ball conscious, looking to punch that ball out any opportunity that they get. And we're going to continue to make that a focal point for us, because truth be told, that was a big reason for our success last year, was our ability to take the ball away.
I mean, you got to love that. And it's a great illustration, Shayne, of Ben saying, like, look what Al Harris did in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody said before last year that the Bears were going to lead the league in takeaways, especially with a defensive line that's getting no sacks. And you just got to love how much Ben Johnson, it starts with the coaching. And I know for both of you, that's a bedrock for what you guys do on your shows.
Yeah, it better be, because that's where it all. How many coaches have we had in here? How many coaching staffs over the past 20 years? And it's been the same song and dance over and over again. And it's why it's so refreshing to listen to Ben, like you said, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but just holding his guys accountable. That's what a head coach does. It doesn't matter that Antoine Randall is the assistant, head coach, or that Al Harris's position group, played probably above their skis overall this year. Yeah, part of it is coaching, but it's it's the grind. It's to what Phil has said, and Phil's gotten in trouble with some fans over the years by phrasing it this way, is when he said, I need a guy to be maniacal. Everybody's like, oh, DDP needs a coach to come in here and break in chalkboards and throwing stuff. No, it's not that. It's every little detail every single day. It doesn't matter if it's July 28th or if it's December 28th. It matters just as much in July or April or May as it does in November, December, and January when you're in your playoff run. It all matters. And the thing that I laugh about is when everybody says that the turnovers aren't sustainable, they never talk about second year. You always hear with everybody else, oh, second year. You're going to hear it with Detroit fans and all of that. They tried to replace Ben Johnson, didn't go so well, so now they're bringing in another guy. And second year in the system for Caleb, second year in the system for Rome, for Luther Burden, for Colston Loveland, for this offensive line with the same coaches. So that can help compensate you getting another less turnover. You know what I mean? Because you got that internal growth. Nobody talks about that. One hand washes the other. Nobody is out here saying, oh, the Bears are going to lead the league in takeaways. Man. Nobody's saying that. But right. It's the little things. He earmarked Nahshon Wright. Now, was Nahshon Wright overrated in the grand scheme of things? And I know that probably sounds a little bit aggressive to people. Yes, he was overrated. Did he make plays that were splashy plays? Yes, he did. He was also on the open market and got $5 million. So everybody in the NFL spoke to what they saw on tape, just like we did with Nahshon Wright. But Al Harris saw something in him, coached it up, and got it out of him. Who else did he earmark? Zay Frazier in the draft.
Right.
Very similar type player. Sat out. You hope he's back and healthy and ready to go. But it all starts with coaching. It all starts there.
It all starts there. And a couple guys they earmarked. I know Phil, I know you're going to love this quote. When he talks about, leaders coming in and these new players coming in. I've seen a few people in the chat calling it out. Ben Johnson describing some new incomers as trained killers as a part of this defense. Here's Ben Johnson. This is my favorite.
Something that DA brought up as we're going over self-scout over the last month and a half was, the best defenses usually have 2 or 3 trained killers. It's that you usually don't have 11 of them, okay? But you got 2 or 3 that are tone setters that can really elevate the play of everyone around them. When we watched the tape, we felt like that jumped off when Kobe was on the field. He's a guy that comes out, whether he's playing quarters, playing the post, playing down in the box, he's coming down, and if he sees somebody, he's looking to light them up. And, there's certainly some things to his game that we're going to look to improve. That's like that with every player, and yet we feel like he's got a really solid foundation with his play style that's going to naturally just percolate with the rest of the guys.
What was the it factor that you felt with him just talking about this?
Yeah, well, once again, it was only probably a 10, 15-minute conversation, and yet he's wired the right way. I mentioned it earlier with Luther. These guys that if you take football away, if you pull the cleats off of them, they don't know what to do with themselves. They need football to. They wake up thinking about it, and if you take it away, it screws them up. And I think he's wired that way, which I don't think you can get enough of those guys.
Does the same apply to Devin Bush?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel strongly about him as well. You go back and you see in our system how we viewed him coming out of college, and he's one of those guys that had a Bears box. We felt like he was the character matched up with the play style. He's one of those guys that I think he's going to fit in nicely with what we're doing. He's smart. He loves ball, just like we were talking about, and so I feel good that he's going to be a great scheme match where we're looking back and looking at a will linebacker as well.
You're looking at 2 players. Obviously, that's Johns, I believe, piggybacking off of Kobe Bryant that he offered up, and I would agree with Coach's assessment. Sorry, but TTNL has been saying this for a long time. You don't have dogs, and that's what we're talking about. Ben just happens to call them trained killers. But the reality is we're speaking on the same level. A trained killer is a guy that loves the game of football to the extent where between the whistles, he takes it to an aggressive level to let everybody know that ain't going down on this defense. And we just didn't have them. I think when Danny Trevathan came over there, he had some of that. What was his name? Pernell McPhee. You saw like a dog in them, but they were coming on.
It was a train killer was our guy, Lance
Khalil
Briggs.
Mack.
Lance
Yes,
Briggs.
Lance Briggs, definitely.
He came in, felt like he should have been a first round pick, and
definitely
he showed up to camp, big FU to everybody, and put the league on notice real quick.
The thing about Lance was that his ability to explode into tackles aggressively within the context of the rules, he was a complete finisher. So yeah, 100%. Briggs was an animal out there.
And you know what? And you know what you saw with that?
That's what you get with Devin Bush, by the way.
Right. And you know what happens too then? Because like Ben said, you're not going to have 11 train killers on a team. Right. You might have 3. But what happened with that Lovie Smith defense, right? You had Urlacher, you had Briggs, you had Tommy Harris. Those guys were the train killers. But then it becomes contagious. Then it becomes contagious. And so
now you're saying, wait a second. Jalen Johnson, we'll just use him because I kind of dogged him, but in all honesty, that's my scout on him. All of a sudden, Devin Bush is coming up like Lance Briggs, finishing people. And all of a sudden, he's looking at corners, making business decisions. Who's going to say something? Devin Bush or Kobe Bryant. Yo, dog, we need to hit here. And coach obviously is going to say, so when you have a bunch of puppies, you got to train them right. And this is the reality of what Ben is speaking on. And I think that goes for the draft too. It hasn't been like that with polls. I'm just saying it's always traits oriented.
And the good guy. Yeah.
And the good guy he's a really nice guy. And that's good for some things. I will say the quarterback is a killer. He is. And that's why you got what you got. Now you got to find that. And Luther Burden, Shayne talked about it when we drafted him. Phil, you're always talking about getting these dogs. Well, the one thing you could say, polls went against. No, that was Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
He wants dog. And the same thing with Raymond coming here.
Well, let's tee that up. Well, let's tee that up and switch gears back to the offense. We've mentioned it a few times on some of the thoughts he's had on the wide receivers, the coaching points. But since you mentioned Luther Burden, we'll start there and kind of work our way back to some of these different thoughts he had. But here's Ben Johnson speaking very highly of what to expect here from Luther Burden in year 2.
Both him and Colston, as young players, as rookies that didn't have a full offseason last year, it took us a little bit longer to get them going and really the production that we had hoped for. And so by mid-season, the confidence had grown. I know I certainly felt better about putting them in different spots, running different routes. And I think Caleb had developed a rapport by that point. And so that's where you started to see things take off for Luther. He's exactly what we thought we were getting out of the draft last year. This guy's a dynamic playmaker. He's got some of the best run after catch in the game right now. I really believe that. We got to continue to get the ball in his hands as often as we possibly can. And I think what I've grown to love about him is that this guy loves football. Like if you took football away from him, I don't know what he would want to do with himself. He's been in all off season. He's been lifting weights. Him and Colston both with our strength staff. He's really, really excited to get a full off season going and look to develop a bigger route tree.
I mean, so when you talk about certain coaching staff trying to get good guys, he's trying to get guys that are obsessed, maniacal, as you said.
And what do you notice there, though? You guys know how I pick apart things like this when there's these little sound bites. But what is key there from what he just said? He said, those guys are in here every day, like Colston, like Luther. Those are guys that Ben earmarked as must-haves on his team. Is he talking about somebody else that's got to be up there and has to warrant his top 10 status in Rome Odunze? It's a massive year for Rome, because if Rome doesn't live up to that, he's going to be bypassed by Luther Burden very, very quickly. That's how Luther's built. He's went from the ground up and had to fight for everything. He doesn't have the top 10 status. He doesn't have the top 10 money. He doesn't have the 5th-year option money coming towards him. So he's fighting for everything. And you can't discount that. And he was a dog in college football, and then he got hungrier when he deemed what was, people dismissing him in the draft. Rome Odunze's got a pit bull at his ankles, biting, and may just run right past him.
Well, to that point, I think that's a good setup to what we've kind of been teasing here for a little bit, and that's the head coach, Ben Johnson, not mixing words in terms of what needs to get better for the passing game. And
really good stuff, by the way, by CHGO filming this.
This is what we do. Shout out to Hogue. Hogue did the filming today. But here is the head coach, Ben Johnson.
How they don't broadcast this is beyond me. I'm sorry.
Well, I think we were efforting posting the whole thing, but you're getting
not you guys. I'm talking about the Bears organization.
Hey,
you guys are doing
great.
great.
Let us post it. But here's Ben Johnson.
Great stuff.
Here's Ben Johnson, calling it straight to the mat on the fundamentals and them getting better in terms of holding on to the football, catching the football.
I was disappointed with some of his drops last year. What did you see in that regard, and how do you get that?
Whose drops?
Rome.
That's something that we'll talk to him about. I don't think that was a thing with him coming out, and so I don't want to speak that into existence. That's something as an entire offense we're going to emphasize here in the springtime, getting back to our fundamentals, back to the basics. As simple as that sounds, and catching the football is part of it. And so we'll make that a big point of emphasis, and I think we'll see improvement from that.
So there's that, and then one more clip in terms of him specifically talking about Rome and Luther, and then I'll get to more of the improvements that Ben Johnson is really itemizing for this team in 2026.
With DJ's exit, what does that mean in terms of the next challenges for both Rome and Luther as they continue there?
Yeah, well, I think the opportunities start to show up now because DJ had the most skins on the wall in terms of production throughout his career, and so now that opens some windows, some targets. Where does it get distributed? You already mentioned Rome and Luther, certainly, but also it's a competition between the receiver room and the tight end room and the running back room. So I think it's going to be really healthy for our guys in the spring and at training camp to look to carve roles for themselves and see how they can be featured in our offense.
There it is.
Love this guy.
I mean, it's about opportunity, right? And now here it is.
Keeping it 100, Shane and Greg, because an offensive coach doesn't dilute the water. They just make it, enrich it with minerals. That's what he's doing here. He's creating competition, but also having a standard of not allowing his needs to be thrown out there. It's so good to see this because he's speaking it correctly. There's a lot of talent on this football team offensively. Rome Odunze, let's not get it twisted. He started out really hot, got hurt, came back. You want to give Jalen credit? I'm going to give Rome credit, playing on a broken foot in ice cold.
Made the biggest catch, one of the biggest catches. First five biggest catches of the year, but he made one of them.
But that's maybe one of the most memorable. If he doesn't make that catch, there is no. So that's where I put it at the top.
So there is a huge difference in when you're watching tape with Rome Odunze pre-injury and post. Huge. You can see it.
Yes.
The difference was he wasn't injured in week 2 when he had the 4 drops versus Detroit. And Ben is 100% spot on. One of the best parts of his game coming out of Washington
My number one receiver
was the contested catch rate was out of this world, and just catching everything. And that I don't want to say it's a huge concern. Maybe, maybe it was, the adjustment with the injury, but the catches, the drops were there throughout the season. They just were.
I want to ask you both this in conversation. He also is learning a new system. Also was kind of neglected with the first offense, but his father also put this level, and no pun intended here, this burden on him in regards to going out in the media. And I don't care what anyone says. I believe that kind of distraction, based on the player that I've seen on tape and getting to know him through all of his interviews and how he handles himself, he's a really great human being and a great kid. So I don't think this is a work thing. I think there was a lot of moving parts here that I think coach is doing a good job motivating him, as you said, Shayne, by saying Burden and Loveland are here.
Well, and let's be honest too, is I think DJ, and even if you want to back it up a year, Keenan cast a pretty big shadow on this team with young players where they don't really essentially want to step on toes. Now it's wide open to Ben's point. Now you've cleared the deck. Now Keenan's not here. Now DJ's not here. And everybody's built different. I don't think Luther cares what room he's in.
100%.
I'm just being honest.
I love it.
You're in a room with Jerry Rice, he's like, all right, cool.
He is like Steve Smith.
Right. That's what
honestly,
I'm saying.
He's that kind
I'm
of
not sure if Rome seems a little bit more proper and polite to me. Where 100%. Man, I don't want to go out there and step on DJ's toes. I don't want to go out there and step on Keenan's toes. And to Phil's point, with the big change, the big adjustment in the coaching staff, maybe it was going to take him a little bit of time. But just like you said, Greg, if you're gonna praise Jalen Johnson's work ethic for coming back, not only did Rome come back, but Rome produced with some of the biggest catches, where Jalen, not so much.
Yep. And he certainly had some big catches, but Rome also had that drop against the Rams to start the game for the touchdown, which loomed large. And so that kind of leads me to a couple more clips we have here as we're starting.
One other thing, Greg, I think it's important. And then just to keep on Rome Odunze coming out had a high point, over the top, back shoulder catch radius. Ben Johnson's offense is much different. It's not that. So when we saw the rookie numbers and the ascension there, the philosophy changed. Now it's in breaking routes. It's shallow cross. It's deep in coming across. Not that he can't do it, but I'm saying we have to give him the same benefit of the doubt as you would someone else's. It's different
as the whole offense, right? I mean, this is
he's a different fit. He's got to get used to that now.
Well, and that's where you talk about, there's a couple different things that we're going to play here, but that's where you talk about where this team is right now compared to where this team was a year ago at this time, when Ben hadn't even talked to the team yet. So while we're still talking about improvements, we played this clip on the earlier show, but I think it's prescient in terms of our conversation right now. So here's Ben's full overview on everything the Bears need to get better at, specifically with the passing game offense, but he also throws in 8 other things he wants the Bears to get better at.
Last month that you wanted to look at the offense and try to pinpoint 3 things that you guys could really focus on getting better. Have you gotten to that point where you've got some bullet points on when the guys get better?
Yeah. I think, I don't want to necessarily pin this down yet, but as we're going through it, and we still haven't made it through all the self-scout, not offensively yet, but as a team, we're going to have to get better with our fundamentals and our technique, our detail. I already talked about we're going to coach better. I feel good about that. On offense, we ran the ball well, which was great, but our passing game still leaves some to be desired. I think coaching-wise, we need to do a better job getting the primary receiver open. I think our route details got to improve, and our ball location and simply catching the football has got to improve there. Our situational football wasn't good enough on either side of the ball. namely our end of half 2-minute situations. We had numerous, and we didn't score many points. We tended to get a first down, but we didn't end up moving the ball very much after that. So that's a point of emphasis for us. Our short yardage wasn't good enough on offense. DA would tell you on defense we did a great job taking the ball away, and yet there's a number of categories where we got to improve. Our run defense wasn't good enough. We gave up too many explosive plays. And so those are some generalities. I think we'll narrow it down a little bit more once the players get in the building so that they can really sink their teeth into how we're going to improve those specific categories.
So, I mean, you wouldn't have known this team had their best year in 15 years if you had listened to that 1.5-minute clip. But, he's not mixing words in terms of player accountability, coaching accountability. He didn't have much to say about the run game. That's the big thing, too. You listen to 30 minutes of Ben Johnson today. He had nothing to say about what the run game needs to improve on. He talked a little bit about how Garrett Bradbury will kind of fit in seamlessly to what they were doing and kind of matching, what he'll do from a talent standpoint. But beyond that, when you hear him talking about, hey, this is what we need to get better from a passing game standpoint and route running and catching the football and ball placement. And so those are the things that I think are really exciting in terms of Ben's attention to detail, because here's the final clip I'm going to play before we reach overtime. But this has been my overall point to anyone citing, this assumed regression for next year. And that is, you are severely underestimating how much far ahead they are this year compared to last year in terms of offense. And here's Ben really illustrating that point, talking about his new coaching staff coming in and looking at some of the summer tape of last year and comparing it to where they are currently now after being on the doorstep of an NFC championship.
Well, I think it's interesting because couple new coaches on staff on the offensive side, and we did a fun little exercise a couple weeks ago where we turned on Fan Fest from last preseason. So that was at Soldier Field the week before our week 1 preseason game. And we just watched a couple periods from that. And both those coaches ended up turning around and, how did you guys win any games last year? Like they couldn't believe, because we had already made it through about half the self-scout, and they saw what the actual plays in season looked like, and to see where we started is like, wow, it's an eye-opener. And so the hope is not just for Caleb, but for the entire offense, is that we start a lot further along in the spring and in training camp than where we were a year ago. And so I feel pretty confident that that's going to be the case. I know he got so much better over the course of the season, being able to take a game plan on a Wednesday, hearing these plays for the first time, and going out on the field, whether it's for a walkthrough or actual full speed reps, and be able to regurgitate that play, break the huddle, and us be able to execute it. And so, they were baby steps throughout the season, and yet when you see it from the start of camp there all the way to the end, you're like, okay, we're cooking here. The point is, we got to start there. We got to start there this springtime, and I think if we do, we'll see another big step forward for the entire unit.
There it is. I mean,
you're a good coach.
That's a football coach.
That's exactly what you see, Greg, on every level. When you go back and look at preseason Wolverine youth football versus where you were going to the Super Bowl, it's like night and day. Like, how did you win a game? It's just because the coaching matters. And we got a good one here, man. I'm excited. Great job, Adam Hogue, grabbing and filming these quotes and getting the coach
He's
to
filming
be
with 2 cameras.
Outstanding job.
One really nice camera, and then he was like worried if one didn't work, and then he had one
Terry
on the
Crews behind him.
No, definitely not
standing there behind him.
That's Aaron Clark. He's the head of the media team there for.
He's hitting the clicker for every question that goes
yeah,
off. All right, you got 6 more, 5 more.
We get the
4
Major
more.
League Baseball challenge. Can we get a couple more? Yeah.
As we reach the top of the hour here, we got a few more clips to play, but I just want to give everybody a quick reminder that now is as good a time as ever to become a diehard here at CHGO Sports. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Head to allchgo.com/diehard to sign up. Use the code JAHNS, and then you'll get that deal for $36 for the entire year. You get the draft guide from Fran Duffy. You get a free shirt as soon as you sign up. So many great advantages as we've officially reached overtime here tonight. Had to make sure we hit overtime on the spot. I saw Stephen Nicholas, our executive producer, in the chat. So there's a lot of pressure when he's watching attentively to make sure I don't mess up. And
Greg tells us every day, best in the biz.
Steve taught me well. Steve
he taught me well. Although
you hit the post like you were Caleb Williams versus the Lions.
So speaking of Caleb Williams, I'm glad you mentioned that, because all these clips, and we haven't even had anything where Ben talks about Caleb Williams. Well, let me give you a minute 20 where he talks about where Caleb's at, and then he even sprinkles in what the team can get better to help Caleb with as well.
That's the beauty of Caleb Williams. It's a little bit unpredictable. And so as structured as we want to be at times, I think he does a great job of just his natural reaction being a very difficult thing to defend. And so I already alluded to it before. I'm actually not very happy with us as an offensive staff, our ability to get the primary receiver open. I don't think it happened at a high enough clip, and so we have to do a better job in our game planning process. And I put a lot of that on myself of making sure that we are doing that. And then that's where Caleb comes in handy, is he can bail us out when we are wrong, which we're going to be wrong each and every game. I'm going to mistime some calls, or they're going to throw something at us that we weren't prepared for, and that's on him and his athletic ability to bail us out. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, is we're going to be able to have those conversations in the quarterback room of when can we hang in there and get this ball out to the primary or the number 2 receiver, and when do we need to extend. And naturally, I think we got to get better when we extend plays, capitalizing on those as well. Our scramble tape was not very good, and I think that's something that Caleb can really sink into, just with his accuracy, with our ability to catch the ball, with our ability to separate down the field. I think we can make a huge jump there as well.
I wonder why Pat Finley's late to that question period, because you're missing the reality of what we've broken down so many times. I just love this coach.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Talk about scramble drill. Yeah. I think it was a constant Phil Ottochian rant on BHL on how poor effort was in regards to DJ Moore and company when Caleb broke the pocket. And you're just like, are they even working? Like, what are we doing?
Can't you back up 2 years, and if Flus was in that same position, can't you just hear him blaming it on the execution of the play? It has nothing. Coaching is fine. The guys just got to execute better. It's all about execution.
This guy is like, bro, you hit a home run. I know Don Burr's in the audience probably trying pretend confidence, because the reality is there's a reason why there was regression in Detroit. It's absolutely clear that Ben Johnson, I mean, I wasn't expecting this tonight, because Greg didn't share this amazing stuff that Hogue, shout out again to Hogue. That's how happy I am about this, because he's really hitting home the reality of where you can get better and how much Caleb was completely unappreciated by the national audience till later. And guess what? He didn't give that name to himself. It was teammates and people giving him Iceman. It's pathetic that anybody would go there, and I can go on a rant for like an hour about this. So I'm not. But
me and Carm are on day 8 of fighting about that.
It's just pathetic. Like I just, what I saw with Coach though there, just accountability plus, transparency plus.
Accountability, but also
showing you the plan.
Like, because Lou, I didn't set that up great, because Lou Canales basically was like talking about how teams will be ready for their offense a little more because it's on tape. And he was like, well, that's the beauty of Caleb. He's kind of unpredictable. So it's a little hard to game plan.
Oh,
Then he goes on to say, you know, and how many times does he bail us out as coaches, right?
100%.
And so then he gets into, hey, and you can also help Caleb out when he's scrambling and getting it right. So like he
That's
doesn't
really
miss
the three pieces.
I think my favorite thing over the last 3 clips we just played, and I said it on today's show, I'll say it again, is I loved when he was like, and we're not even done with self-scouting in the offense, especially in the offense.
Well,
like
what it should all be about.
they're dialed into the draft, and he's still self-scouting from last year to make sure that no stone is unturned. And
going back to Family Fest.
Yeah,
whatever.
Let's watch Family.
But that's
Fest.
think about that. But that's
of what you're doing.
When you say the devil's in the details, that's exactly what you're talking about. But just before you wrap up the scramble drill thing, and I saw it I wanted to say it, and then I did see it in the chat too. They brought it up. The best player at your scramble drill in terms of wide receivers was like wide receiver 5 or 6 in Devin Duvernay that barely played. He was the one guy that showed the ability to do it consistently.
That's honestly a good point because
Loveland, somebody else brought up the Niners game when Loveland had
Loveland
touchdown.
Bro, I'm talking wide receivers.
We're talking wide receiver. Shayne, you're 100% right, man. And that's honestly where Raymond comes in here to play, because Ben Johnson identified Raymond that this is a guy that's going to run through his route. If he's the number 3 read in the progression, because the number 1 read is rubbing off of his concept to get open, this guy better be going. And we saw it on tape with DJ Moore when he wasn't getting the ball jog or whatever. This offense is to fulfill everybody's stats, not one guy's stats. And I think you have to be an ultimate team player here, and you got to love ball. Yep. And you're all going to get fed here with this kind of talent here. But
well, you set it up well there, and I made sure when he brought up Khalif Raymond, that's your guy, Phil. This is the one you earmarked before free agency started. Bring this guy here to Chicago. Ben certainly understood why you were saying that, and here's Ben Johnson talking about Khalif Raymond being added to this locker room.
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime you have a touch point with a player, whether it's through free agency or the draft, I do think it helps. Just you know what you're going to get, and so anytime one of our coaches or personnel guys has a chance to be with another player, then you feel pretty good. And so, yeah, did I stand on? Absolutely. I stood on the table for Khalif. So did Randall L. So did JT Barrett. We know him really well. We know what he's going to bring to the table. He's a phenomenal teammate. I think it starts there. He's going to elevate that locker room. I think he's going to practice his tail off. That's what he's done his entire career. He's one of those guys that has flown under the radar. He's had to earn every little thing that he's gotten. So his story really resonates with a lot of guys in that locker room. And so I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table for us. Like I said earlier, he's going to get what he earns as well. It's no different for him. I have high expectations for him because I've been with him before and I know what he's capable of, but he's got to come in this spring in the training camp and prove that again and again. So I'm excited about that addition.
Wayne Corbet's cousin, Khalif Raymond. There you go. That's what we're going to compare him to. And if you know anything or do your research about my former teammate, Corbett, he put Keyshawn Johnson on notice as an undrafted free agent from Hofstra. That's the reality of what you get with this kind of football player. And again, geez, just when I thought Hogue couldn't give us enough, he's giving us dessert here.
Yeah, well, it was a good 30 minutes from Ben here today. And
who asked the Khalif Raymond one? That was great.
I'm not sure. But stay tuned for more content from the owners' meetings here at CHGO. We're gonna have a bunch of really good stuff. It wasn't Greg. I only get to talk to Matt Painter, but and also I know Dan Pompey wrote a pretty nice article on Khalif Raymond as well in The Athletic that some of you should definitely go and check out if you haven't already. We only got a few more things here to get through. We don't have to get through any of them or all of them, but obviously the center, we started this show talking about offensive line And so I do think it's important for you guys to hear, and anybody that didn't get a chance to hear it earlier today. There's two different clips I liked from the Garrett Bradbury conversation. And so here's his thoughts on how Garrett's going to fill in for, the absence of Drew Dahlman.
Bradbury,
Yeah.
I imagine his experience on a lot of different levels, working with different quarterbacks and just his skill set. Like, why was he so appealing to you guys?
Yeah, well, we went through a whole process. Ryan and his crew, and then, of course, Dan Rochar and Kyle Devan had a heavy say in it as well, just in terms of evaluating what the replacements were going to look like. And so we came to consensus that Garrett was going to fit us like a glove. Obviously, he had a lot of success last year, made it to the Super Bowl. Very cerebral player. Joe Tooney knows him really well, so there's some natural chemistry that I think we're going to have on the inside. He's going to fit what we like to do in the run game with our wide zone, running off the football. And when we watched it, we felt really good about what he did in pass pro as well. And so I think he's going to be really what the doctor ordered for us in terms of, it's hard to replace a guy like Drew. He had a Pro Bowl season and played really, really well. And yet we feel like Garrett's going to fit us really well also.
I think Garrett Bradbury had like 1,100 snaps and no sacks.
The mic on my film review of Garrett.
Well, and that's the thing. And if you look at a lot of Bears fans and analysts, everybody is pounding the table thinking that the Bears are going to invest a second or a third round pick in a center. I just don't. He's 30 years old. When you have praise like Ben Johnson just had for a guy that you traded a draft pick for, I'm not. So he's going into the last year of his 2-year deal that he signed with New England. When October comes around, you can mark down March 30th, 2026. Don't be shocked in October or the beginning of November when Garrett Bradbury doesn't get like a 2-year extension from the Chicago Bears.
And how fast was it when Joe Tooney had the extension, I think, before minicamp ended?
Right, because the fact of the matter is, when you're talking about the center position, if you go out and draft a center in the second or third round, you're telling Garrett Bradbury that you're one and done here.
I agree.
That it's over before it even started. So that's now if you get into the 4th and 5th round and it's a BPA type scenario, like, hey, like they had in, Blake Brockermeyer's son from Miami, a guy that's not going to go, not expected to go super, super high. But I think the people that are saying that the Bears are a shoe-in for a center in round 2 or round 3, I myself, maybe I'm wrong. I
think Eric Bochan's making a good point in the chat, saying I would like someone to ask Johnson if Luke Newman is going to work primarily at center or both guard and center, because last summer at this time, Luke Newman was primarily working as a center during the summer. And I know that's somebody they're very high on. So maybe he's your center of the future, kind of waiting in the wings here for a couple years down the road and with an extension still in mind.
Can you bring up Logan Roberts' last comment there? Saying that 3 out of the 5 offensive linemen are old, but who? I mean, who's old? I mean, Bradbury's old at 30?
Right. There's guys coming out of University of Indiana at 27 years old.
Joe Tooney's 33. Yeah, so if you want to say that he's old, I get it. He's also elite. Garrett Bradbury at 30 years old, that's not old.
And then Darnell Wright's like what, 27, 26?
Darnell Wright's 24 years old. Yeah.
And then you got
Jonah Jackson's what, 28 maybe tops?
Yeah. He's 29.
Is he?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't.
They're all in that mix.
I wouldn't consider 3 out of the 5.
I totally agree with you. And Greg, for your audience, I know a lot of TTNL people saw the breakdown. Bradbury, I'm telling you, I would say the only thing I felt like Dahlman had over him was age. Like he was a younger player, and I felt like he was a little bit more twitchy. And when I say that as a center, he can move a little bit quicker, but it was like I felt like Bradbury's snaps are perfect, and that would trump the little quickness that you would get from that. So you're not going to say where Dahlman in all honesty, he had some situational snaps that cost you points, cost you drives where he's snapping over Caleb's head, even in the playoffs.
He had
worst game.
1,000. Yeah, he had 1,070 offensive snaps last year for the New England Patriots. 0 sacks given up, 0 penalties.
Exactly. And I don't do the watch every rep, see if he got a penalty thing. That's where I think PFF does a great job. Everything else I don't use PFF for. But the reality of how many plays, penalties, those are good statistics to add to what the tape has said. You're getting a very good center here, and I feel like you've improved center. It might not be what people think, but watch when the season starts how consistent Bradbury, who was a first-round pick of the Vikings, grew. Listen, I always say defensive tackle is the hardest for a rookie to come in because the offensive linemen are usually in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're just technicians when it comes to technique and what it is that they're doing. Bradbury is that, and he's a bad dude. And I like how Ben said the cohesive mix. This is something we talked about as well. He's going to be able to have his boy Joe Tooney, who everybody loves. Guys, here's Garrett. This is a great dude. Loves to hunt.
Contavious Street, also a teammate, Phil, by the way.
Both at NC State, all 3 NC State players.
And the thing that I liked most from, his answers about Bradbury was, and again, something I mentioned on the show, so not to be too repetitive about today's show, but one thing I always drove me nuts about Mike Martz was that he would try to run the Rams offense with the Chicago Bears players. And,
good point,
Jay Cutler famously said on a broadcast, tell Mike Martz F you, because he'd gotten drilled into the turf 9 times, 9 sacks once upon a night. And then there was another player that I did an interview once upon a time was saying Mike Martz was drawing up all this stuff, in the room with the offense. And they were like, look, that's great, but we don't have Marshall Faulk at running back. We don't have Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt at wide receiver.
You don't have Orlando Pace, right? You don't have Kurt Warner.
And so when they asked about, Lou Canellis was the one to ask it, because I think the question got cut off, but he asked Ben like, oh, so with Bradbury, and that means your offense isn't going to change. And here was Ben's answer, which was really refreshing from a coaching standpoint.
The loss of Bowman doesn't force you to change anything with the way you run your offense.
Well, we will always take our time in the spring and during training camp to figure out what we do best, what our guys do best. And so does it tweak schematically what we ask them to do? Sure. I mean, I think that's what good coaches do. And that's what Dan does a great job of, coaching up. And so we'll see what he's best at, and we'll look to emphasize that. But I'm sure things will change just a little bit. But what I am excited about is I only got to talk to him briefly when he came in after the trade, and yet I could tell how bright he is, and I think the chemistry in the room is really not going to miss a beat now.
I just love that answer. It's simple, but it eludes some coaches, because Hogue brought this up earlier today. Nagy was also another coach that didn't know how to adjust. I didn't come here to run the I formation. No, you're gonna run the offense that's best suited for the personnel you have. And so that, I think, is just what all the things that we've talked about here tonight with Ben Johnson and all these
simplest things, Greg, have always escaped the Bears because the head coaches stunk. They just weren't the correct hires. And that's not past thing. You just saw it in your example there. I didn't come here to run the I. The biggest lesson I learned, and I'm speaking to every guy that wants to be a coach or get into coaching, that I learned, you don't run your scheme. You run the scheme that your personnel is giving you the opportunity. So that means you got to learn it, then you better well learn it, because that's where you got to go. And you're 100% right. Getting in there, he's given the right answer there. The springtime is going to tell us where we're going with this offense. It can't limit us. And it's great to hear that.
Well, we got Luke Carey in the
Carey.
chat. Luke Carey giving shout out to saying great show here and appreciate it. It's a testament to these guys and the knowledge that they have. I'll have a long-winded tweet and Facebook post to honor these guys here later tonight for the amazing job they've done here tonight. I'm gonna do one every night, and then Steven will be the next night, and I'm just gonna do as many as I can.
Just want to thank
and Carm like every day. Somebody else will get one before Carm does. Steve Varga saying, if Caden Proctor's not there at 25, would you take Lomu from Utah, the left tackle? Because you were mentioning some of your first round grades. You didn't mention Lomu.
Well, I like Lomu. I just have a Hennecore over him.
Yeah, if you're talking specifically offensive tackles under your scenario, and the two guys that Phil, or the three guys that Phil mentioned, they're got, like, people are Freeling. People aren't taught. He's going to go a lot higher than anybody expects. Like, I think there's people that think that the Bears are going to have a legitimate shot at him at 25. I don't think there's a chance in hell the Bears are even going to sniff him.
And you guys said a Hennecore from Arizona State. Shayne, you kind of mentioned that he's kind of become the Darnell Wright of
because I was you got to phrase it the right way. Who was I praising, Greg, when we were on the phone today talking about that? I said,
"Oh, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot."
Greg conveniently forgot that part.
Earlier in the show.
We talked UConn Phil or Iowa Phil?
Yeah, well,
I told him that. And he goes, "I'm not sure if Phil's going to be able to handle the public praise, Shayne, so I don't want to give it to him on live air."
He couldn't do it.
But no, Phil earmarked him way before the draft process kicked off and was talking about it, and saying that you got to watch this kid. And now Nate Tice came out and has a Hennecore in his top 15 players available overall.
He's in my top 15.
You see this stratosphere with these guys where Darnell Wright initially was, when people were doing their mock drafts and their draft simulators, people were like, "Oh yeah, I got Darnell Wright in round 3," and then a couple of weeks later was, "Oh man, now I got to move. He's going in round 2." And TTNL was like, "Yeah, I have no issue with this guy at 9," and took a lot of heat about that. But you could see it. You could see it on tape. You could see the way he dominated Will Anderson. Did he have some warts? But again, very, very young. He's still only 24 years old.
This is the problem. I saw a kid talking about Bain today, and it got me so fired up, because if you take 4 plays and you break them down and you try to transcend an entire game and a position and technique in 4 plays, you're doing it wrong. And fans are eating this crap up, and it just fires me up so much. So it's the same thing. I knew this would happen with the Hennecore, because I'm looking at his tape and I'm like, this guy could play left tackle in a second. Versus, when I'm looking at Ozzy Trapilo and I could see the limitations. There's size and power. There's not the athleticism. But you look at this kid now, but look at some of these play. Every prospect is going to lose. Every single one. They're going to lose. Do you watch the entirety of it? That's what I try to do for our fans. So you're uneducated when you're looking at these prospects. Like, Bain is the second best player in this entire draft. I don't care about his arms and that. I will go out. I can't wait till the story changes. This has happened so many times for us. I'm saying you've been a part of us as well, Greg, in our conversations where we see this guy, all of a sudden people are downgrading him. I'm old enough to remember them talking about Caleb Williams being too short and comparing him to
He's not even going to hit 6 feet. Yeah.
Murray, who's now with the Vikings. It's pathetic. The draft nicks that don't understand how to watch. It's so important that you watch the tape, or you say, listen, I don't know. I just watched a few highlights. That's your lane. What I want to do is show you. I just broke down 4 games of Hennecore. and there's no cherry picking. All right, let's show a good clip, bad. This is where he's limited. And there's 58 freaking plays there of an offensive tackle. Why? Because I wanted you to see his good and bad so he can show you that he's going to left tackle. I'm sorry. I went on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just going to say, I don't watch the tape. What I do is I watch you guys and then I just take your thoughts. And then when Brian Baldinger comes on, I go, Brian, I'm really big on Caden Proctor. I liken him to a dancing bear.
I heard you say that. You just didn't say my friends Phil and Shayne because Carm was going to give you the evil eye.
Exactly. If I had said that, then
Carm hates us.
Derailed my question. No, I made him say something nice about you guys at the end of today's show when I had to do 20 push-ups because I didn't go to the gym today, and that's my new deal. Is any day that I don't
off days, push-ups day.
Today was an off day, so I did push-ups on the show, and during my push-ups, I said, all right, well, then you have to say something nice about Phil and Shayne while I do that. So you can
I need this clip for tomorrow,
clip
Sean Stewart, please.
You can do that.
I want to say one thing about Proctor, too.
Okay.
I said from Jump Street, Shayne, there's no way this kid is getting to 25. He's not a guard. He's a left tackle. He's
an athletic freak.
He's an athletic freak. He's lining up at split end and slot receiver, catching a ball and running down the field. There's so much clay there.
They ran Wildcat with him.
Yeah, if you lose 20 pounds, there is an unstoppable potential to be.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. And I saw it in some of the
league type of.
I saw some of the comments when I did the mock draft live show with some of our patrons, and Jaden, one of our patrons, selected Caden Proctor at 25, and
great job.
A lot of the comments of people are like, "Oh, I turned this off when he took an offensive tackle at 25." Not that I'm against it, but there's no way I'd take Proctor. He's an offensive guard only, and I'm like, just admit that all you just did was read Brad Bigg's article. That's it. That's what you're basing. You've probably never even seen him play, but that's what I'm saying. Just go sign up, become a patron. We'll show you. You'll learn how to
walking away from breaking down Proctor's tape. And I saw you did a great job. I know I promoted you on our show. What an outstanding job you did with Baldy that day, you and Carm. It was good football conversation into the details of it. And Proctor is a left tackle, and he is going to be outstanding in the league. And this is with every prospect, if he loves the game of football. I don't get to sit down with him and talk to them, so that's always there. But Brad Biggs does a disservice in quoting a friend who has the same opinion because he didn't watch the tape, that this kid is going to be a guard. There's no guard there. That's if all else fails after 3 years, we'll move him to guard.
You always
gallery from
you
Iowa.
Let them fail their way inside.
Yeah,
that's the way that
exactly, Shayne. Fail his way. There's no failure here. I'm just telling you. If we got Proctor at 25, Greg, I'm jumping up and down like Iowa's winning again. Because I haven't felt that in a long time.
Well, I look forward to tweeting out in a little bit that my sleeper is Max Ahenacor here. The show is over. We got a couple more. I've seen some people throwing questions in here late. We're almost to the hour and a half mark, and I'm sure Steven's watching, shaking his head, knowing that I've done 3 hours worth of shows today. But it's worth it. We got a day of Ben Johnson clips, so we've got a bunch of good stuff. But I did hear, Mark, somebody asked you a question earlier here in the show to you guys saying, curious for the TTNL crew's opinion on Blake Miller out of Clemson as a potential left tackle option. He was a right tackle in college with limited full reps at left, played well, according to Drossel, and is going to the left side. Your guys, any thoughts on Blake Miller?
I'll say before Phil chimes in, I'll just keep it short and sweet. Now, if you told me that the Bears move was to move Darnell right to left tackle, then I'd be more open to Blake Miller. I look at Blake Miller a lot of the way that I looked at Ozzy Trapilo. Now on tape, Phil and I had the same assessment that we didn't see left tackle. I think in the grand scheme of things, Bears fans have probably overrated Ozzy a bit just because of the excitement around
Well, I
last
had
year.
to because I had him as a left tackle
Right.
in May.
I see Blake as, I think he's still got a lot of work to do myself, but I see him more as like how I had originally assessed Ozzy, that he's a right tackle only in my book. I don't know. Phil and I haven't talked about this.
Yeah, I like Blake Miller. He's in that second round with potential. I agree with Shayne. This is somebody that he's on the borderline, referencing Madonna here. And you don't know. I believe is a little bit more athletic than Ozzy Trapilo was. So I like the fact that you see that there. And there is some tape of him playing left tackle and giving me good reps. So that's why I felt like this kid could be moved up into the second round as a potential tackle option there. But now he's a part of a competition. I don't think he's a stalwart left tackle prospect with that kind of athleticism, but there's a lot to like about Blake Miller. So I know I'm not giving this guy the reps, but I think if the Bears took him, they're taking him to be a left tackle.
Yep. Yeah,
in the second round.
I agree. And I got to give, I know Don Burr takes a lot of bullets here in the chat. I do agree with what his last comment is. I agree with Don. I don't think Detroit's going to pass him. And if for whatever reason, I don't think Philadelphia is going to pass him, I'll be shocked on draft day if he makes it to Chicago at 25.
Well, I'm shocked that Don Burr made the broadcast today because I don't like pulling up his name because it has the Lions logo on it. So
yeah, his mom doesn't even like him, so it's fine.
That's true. That's very, very true. Yeah, I'd be remiss through all this. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on Blake Miller, but I'll save those here for our next show.
Yes.
In a couple weeks.
Up next with Blake Miller talk, Matt Waldman. Let's go to commercial. Welcome to CHGO. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, well, with that being said, our next After Dark show will be 2 weeks from today. We've been doing them every other Monday since the offseason started, and that'll be our final After Dark episode before the draft, if you can believe it. And so I'm planning on a pretty big draft show that night. And Matt Waldman has agreed to come on that night, schedule permitting, but it seems like he's locked that in. Fran Duffy, I'm going to be harassing him to come back. He's been dealing with some health issues, but it seems like this week he's going to be back on the ALLCITY channels and probably on CHGO later in the week. But we'll bring Fran Duffy on one last time here before the draft. We'll get Matt Waldman on. These two guys, are really dialed into the homework when it comes to the draft. And so, we're all, benefiting from these guys and their knowledge in terms of, what to expect here coming up here for the first, second, third, fourth rounds and seeing what this Bears team can do to build themselves to trying to get back to the doorstep of an NFC championship. So we did have a $5 super chat come in here from San Diego. Mike says, Braggs, it's a great day to be a Michigan Wolverine. I was hoping to see your boys in the Final Four. It would have been a great game. You know what, Mike? The last time we played Michigan, we smacked you. So you should be lucky that you're playing Arizona. No, I kid. Congratulations. It's going to be a really fun game between Arizona and Michigan, two heavyweights going after it. Mike, I just read it. He says, where's the super chat? I got you, Mike. I'm sorry you had to wait.
Go, San Diego,
didn't want to get derailed with all the, I could go all day
some
about
NFL news that just came across.
Breaking news.
So the Seahawks will be featured on this summer's Hard Knocks.
Wow.
And the New England Patriots will be featured on 2027 summer's Hard Knocks.
Wow, they already went 2 years ahead. How are they able to do that? I thought there were like rules.
The Bears one was so bad they want to lock they want to lock things into the future to get them prepared.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
I did hear that George McCaskey has now come around and said swearing is allowed.
Yeah,
if we do it.
It's dope AF according to sources.
I wasn't ducking you, Mike. Appreciate the super chat.
Thank you for the super
Not
chat,
really
Mike.
happy for anyone. I'm mad that
Greg will
Purdue didn't
split
get
it
through.
3 ways between us.
Yeah, so let's wrap things up here. This has been a fun show. A lot of really good information from Ben Johnson. Shout out to Adam Hogue and Adam Johns for all the work they're doing out
Great
there,
stuff,
providing
guys. The Adams.
the Adams, giving us some good stuff here to fill up a show and have some fun here. So thank you, Phil and Shayne, as always. And I'd be remiss to not end this by reminding everyone to make sure you guys are subscribed to their channel, the Tape Never Lies Network. They have a Patreon, as they've mentioned a few times, where they do tape breakdowns and you know, they have a bevy of information at your guys' disposal. So we appreciate every single one of you and all the support you guys show to CHGO. And these guys certainly have shown a ton of support to this channel and a ton of information provided. So I encourage every single one of you to return that favor if you haven't already, and go over and subscribe to their stuff and show them the same support they show us. So thank you to everyone here for hanging out. We're going to wrap things up here tonight. The Cubs are winning, but baseball doesn't start until April, as far as I'm concerned. Unless the Cubs win, then they do.
I like the new challenge, the strike.
Yeah.
How many challenges do you get?
You get unlimited as long as no, you get only
if you get 2 wrong.
If you get 2 wrong, that's it. But if you keep getting them right,
the whole game,
you can just keep. They're gonna change that. I was talking to Carm about this. There will come a game where these guys tap on their head up 48 times in a game, and the ump just keeps getting it wrong because he's having a bad day. They're gonna go, all right, there's gonna be a limit.
So wait, if that batter gets limited, not the whole entire team, right? Or 2 wrong on one guy.
No, it's unlimited.
Dude, there was a guy.
Yeah.
There was a guy that was called out on strikes. He tapped his
head. I saw
head,
this.
And they threw another one, called him out on strike, tapped his head.
I might watch baseball again.
And it's gotta be quick. Like you can't right. You know, defer to your manager and say, hey, what do you think? You gotta
okay.
The pitch comes in, you gotta tap.
And it's amazing to watch these hitters. I don't know what the numbers yet are on.
And they have it. I mean, it's cool because on the replay when they do,
they do that.
It'll
by the inch.
Yeah, it'll say 0.2.
And it's truly amazing how good these guys, the hitter's eye is.
Yeah.
And so
it was impressive. I was locked in now. I hate watching baseball.
Oh, and that's why baseball's really done a good job. That was a dying sport 5, 6, 7 years
the
ago.
The NFL could take a little note with some technology in the ball.
Look everybody up.
I don't think the NFL has to worry about it as much as the NBA and NHL could take some notes on the MLB kind of hearing their audience and making their game a little more palatable to the viewer. But NFL fans, we're showing up no matter what. And the replacement refs probably will be a different discussion that certainly is on the table. But
real quick, just for clarity, if the batter gets 2 wrong, he can't
team. It's gone.
It goes out for the
nobody.
Whole That's terrible. I don't like that.
Well, you can't just.
But you can also have unlimited if you get it right.
Right. No different than challenges, right? You got to get them right. So
thank you for the clarity.
It was like Greg at Costco the other day. He screwed up big time, and Jenny
challenged him.
No more challenges.
Oh my God. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Just screaming at me in front of hundreds of people.
Steven having an aneurysm trying to end the show at the back.
He doesn't care. He's just, I'm sure they're just shaking their.
Shout out to Steven one more time.
Steven is the GOAT.
Is Steven a Purdue fan as well?
Steven is a fan of my happiness.
Okay.
That's what you all should be, is a fan of my happiness. Because if I'm not happy, then no one's happy.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Purdue.
Unhappy, like, bye. What's her face?
Oh no, don't get him in trouble.
Yeah. So but yeah, we'll do the Iceman discussion another day. I know we had a bunch of
why don't you come on our show Wednesday and we could bring that topic up?
Yeah, that's true. Because I got a lot of thoughts on that.
I need to get my thoughts out on that too. It's driving me insane.
Okay.
End the show. Great show.
You guys
Lot
are
of
on the
talk.
East Coast, so all right.
A lot of draft,
a lot of talk. We'll be back 2 weeks from now. Matt Waldman, Fran Duffy, these guys
love Matt Waldman.
are going to be doing our thing. Everybody loves Matt Waldman because he's one of the best in the business.
We end the show when he tells us to on TTNL.
All right.
As long as he doesn't wear
I'm ending this thing. You guys have a good night. Thank you all for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central. But make sure you stay tuned for a very special Hogan Johns episode tomorrow as well. Have a good night.
We all silly like the mayor.